Film basic information. The film was released for the first time on the 2nd of September of 2006 in Venice. It was directed by Stephen Frears, written by Peter Morgan, and produced by Andy Harris, Christine Langa, and Tracy Seward. It should be noted that this film has had several Oscar nominations, such as Best Actress, Best Film, and Best Soundtrack, among many others. The awards it has received have been many. It also has won the Oscar, the BAFTA, the Volpi Cup, and the Golden Globe for Best Actress. It also won the Golden Globe for Best Screenplay and lots of other awards. For the argument, two events occur in England. Tony Blair has been elected Prime Minister, and on the other hand, Lady Di, the ex-wife of Charles III, dies in a tragic car accident. The citizens place flowers outside Buckingham Palace and request a public funeral for the princess. But the royal family, who were at Balmoral Castle on vacation, decide to stay there and act indifferently. The Queen did not want to treat this funeral as if Lady Di still belonged to the family, so she decided to not follow the royal funeral protocol. Tony Blair talks to the Queen and convinces her to give in to the people's insistence and put aside appearances. She returns to London, where she witnesses the tribute to Diana. Finally, when the Queen also honors her, the people's rejection of the monarchy ceases. Historical context. There are elections, and after 18 years in the position of the Labour Party, Tony Blair becomes the first president under a promise of change and reform. He convinces the leader of the era which was spreading terror to desist from criminal activity and establish a bilateral dialogue with the aim of ending the violence of the terrorist group. Meanwhile, the royal family fights against the controversies that arise after the divorce of Charles III and Diana of Wales, and takes advantage of their holidays to take refuge in their summer residence Balmoral. She becomes a public figure who symbolizes opposition to the system, which increases her already great popularity. With the arrival of fame, her romances became of interest to the tabloid press. When Diana and Mohammed Al-Fayed, her romantic interest of the moment, decided to spend the night in Paris to have a romantic evening, no one could have imagined the result. To have a slightly more global vision of the outskirts of the United Kingdom, various positive and negative events were happening that could mark history. For example, in Spain, the terrorist organization ETA was spreading terror in many cities, capturing politicians and other public figures and eliminating them. On the other hand, it is also important to know that on August 31, the same day of Lady Di's death, members from more than 100 countries met in a convention against anti-personnel mines, which also prohibits their use, manufacture, and sale. This was accomplished and was a great advance at the time.
And now, we'll share some historical information in order to answer the question, is this film historically accurate? We will present some actual facts as well as introduce the political persons that inspire the characters of this film. We will also complete the information given by the film about the accident that killed Princess Diana. First of all, we will talk about Elizabeth II, the former Queen of England. Her full name is Elizabeth Alexander Mary II, but her titles range from many different things. For most of her territories, they follow a similar structure. For example, for St. Lucia, her title is Queen of St. Lucia and of her other realms and territories. And for Australia, is Queen of Australia and of her other realms and territories. And like that, it goes on. An exception to the rule is the Isle of Man, where she is simply known as Lord of Man. Like every other king and queen, she is known as the Defender of Faith, and as a curiosity, her husband called her Cabbage, a common French pet name. During her long reign, She did many things, but we highlight her deepening of the UK connections with the church, her donations to over 600 charities, and her ability to raise over $1.4 billion for charities and non-profit foundations. Well, followed by introducing Tony Blair, the former President of the UK. His full name is Sir Anthony Charles Lytton Blair, and his titles range from former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, as well as leader of the Labour Party and leader of the opposition. As a fun fact, he was also named Gay Icon by the Vogue magazine. His legacy is extant and it includes increased public spending on healthcare and education, the introduction of minimum wage and extension of labor rights, as well as making progress to stop the war with Ireland and extend the peace. And finally, his most controversial measure, which was involving the UK in the Iraq War after the 9/11 attacks. Charles Philip Arthur George, most commonly known as Charles III, is the current King of England. His titles include King of the United Kingdom and the other 14 Commonwealth realms. He was formerly Prince of Wales, and due to an excelling career in the military, he was named Field Marshal, Admiral of the Fleet, and Marshal of the Royal Air Force. As a fun fact, when several phone conversations of sexual innuendo were leaked, he was also awarded the name Tampax Man. And while he is still a king, his legacy is already immense. He established 16 non-profit organizations and he raised over 100 million last year. He is also a known climate activist. Last of all, we'll talk about Princess Diana. Her full name or birth name was Diana Frances Spencer. Her titles were many, but she was mostly called by the press Lady Di, and after her passing, Tony Blair popularized the term the People Princess, which she was commonly referred as. Her legacy is long because she was one of the most influential people, if not the most, and she was part of over 400 engagements with charities during her royal time, but after her divorce, she kept her patron of 6 charities: the Centrepoint, the English National Ballet, the Great Ormond Street Hospital, the Leprosy Mission, and the National AIDS Trust, as well as the Royal Mersenne Hospital. Even then, she was regularly seen going to hospitals and spending time comforting patients which were ill or had terminal diseases. The main event featured in the film is the accident that kills Princess Diana. And while the information given in the film is minimal, it does mention some details. We see the Queen Elizabeth comment how Diana is never where she is supposed to be and that she is in Paris instead of London. At the time of the accident, it is said that her lover died and that she was seriously injured and transported to the ICU with a concussion and a broken arm, with several other injuries. And finally, minutes later, the film announces that the former princess has passed. In reality, the situation was much more complex, so we'll give you a brief summary of the main facts. At 5:45 p.m., the couple, Diana and her lover, went to buy a ring from the Repossi jewelry. As always, a crowd of paparazzi harassed them at the door of the hotel with prompted a quick exit. In order to get far away from the paparazzi and the photographers, the car exceeded the speed limits, going up to an estimated of 105 kilometers per hour in a zone with 50 kilometer per hour restrictions. While entering the tunnel, the car suffered a fatal accident that ended the life of the couple. Later investigations performed by the French police concluded that Trevor, the driver and only survivor, was under the influence of alcohol, antidepressants, and antipsychotics, which were prescribed by a psychologist, but decreased his reflexes and severely impaired his ability to drive. The investigation also revealed that none of the passengers were wearing the mandatory seatbelt, which could have avoided the death.
How nice to see you again, Mr. Milagros. And congratulations. Children must be very proud.
I hope so.
You've 3, haven't you?
That's right.
Oh, how lovely. Such a blessing, children. Please do sit down.
Thank you.
Says is in the intensive care unit of the Southeast Paris Hospital. She has concussion, a broken arm, and...
What was she doing in Paris? I thought she was supposed to be in London.
Oh, you know what she's like. Charles, isn't this awful? What are you going to do about the boys?
Let them sleep until we know more.
Oh, yes, that's sensible.
I should go to Paris, so I told my people to start organising a jet.
What, a private one?
Yes.
But isn't that precisely the sort of extravagance they always attack us for?
How else am I supposed to get to Paris at this time of night? The airport at Aberdeen will be closed.
Charles, use the Royal flight. They keep one plane on permanent standby in case I should kick the bucket. No, Mummy, that's out of the question. This isn't a matter of state.
What are you talking about?
Diana's no longer a member of the royal family. She's not an HRA.
Before we conclude, we'd like to share our critical review of this film. First of all, we think that this film provides a secondary point of view that was not considered at the time of the accident, and this point of view allows us to see Queen Elizabeth as a human person, rather than just her facet as leader of the country. This film shows her most human side as a grandmother, and it allows us to glimpse what the Queen grief was like, examine the reasons that led her to manage her grief privately as she did. A second point that we wanted to highlight was that this film accurately pictures reality. Unlike other films that are based on mere theories where it is expressed that the Queen wanted to kill Diana or something like that, this film actually shows what happened, and it pictures the dilemma faced by the Queen. We also feel that the film offers great visuals and it provides such great costumes that fit right into the epocha. Finally, we all can agree that this film sparks an interest on the UK's recent history, and that is obviously a big plus.
All in all, the historical value of this film is only surpassed by the emotion that it brings to you when you see the Queen realizing her mistakes and striving to be a better queen, mother, grandmother, and human. We found that this film is a great way of learning recent history and developing an interest about the historical role of the British family. We hope you enjoyed.